Hello and welcome everyone to this Industry Academia Digital Adda Confluence on Skills Connect, Bridging the Industry Academia Gap. Now this Industry Academia Gap, it's well known. Industry will agree with me when I say that industry thinks that academia is not able to provide the talent that they need. And academia believes that industry can support them much more than what they do. So this exclusive closed-door forum provides a unique opportunity for leaders in the industry and academia to come together and discuss how to address the skills gap that is hindering the growth and competitiveness of our economy. So I'm very happy to introduce the August panel. We have Akila Muthuralingam ma'am from KPR Institute of Engineering and Technology. We have Ashok Balasubramaniam, CEO OpenViva. We have Tracy Ostina Zed from Tata Technologies. And Sridevi is moderating the panel. She's head academia SSC NASSCOM. I'll hand it over to Sridevi.
We also have with us Professor Saili.
Yes, thank you for joining in, ma'am. So we also have with us Professor Dr. Saili Gankar. She's Vice Chancellor, D.Y. Patil University. Welcome, ma'am. Over to you, Shri.
Thank you so much and good morning to all of you.
Thank you so much, Kamna. You know, this is much debated out topic. For years together, I think we've been contemplating and we've been discussing that there exists an industry academia gap. But of late in the last few years, we've all seen that there is a conscious effort both from the industry side and also the academia side to bridge this gap. And of course, we're all trying to play the catalyst role over there, trying to get everybody together and, in a sort of attempt to bridge that gap. One such endeavor is trying to get all of them on the same page like this and discuss and debate out what are the things that both of the sides are actually thinking and which pillar needs to bend on which side so that the building stands more concrete. On that note, because, probably I'm a little biased and I start with academia,
Just to interrupt, Dr. Arun Mudol has joined us. So welcome, Dr. Mudol.
Good morning, Dr. Arun Mudol.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We've just begun. Let's just proceed. So as a first point, I was just trying to understand, does academia really believe that there exists a gap? And if so, what are the two major points that you generally feel that this gap is huge and you need to really work hard on that part? Let's start with Dr. Saili.
Okay. Yeah, very good morning to all of you. Thank you for allowing me to speak here and discuss few things which are very important. I think we are aware of it, that a lot of things are changing. And when we talk about two areas, see, when we are making any changes in terms of our processes, I think the environment which we always talk about. So one is, of course, what is happening at international level, at world level, the things are changing. Second is very important, that what is happening at in our nation. So what kind of changes are happening at policy level, at nation level. I'm talking about PM office, education ministry, what efforts they are taking. And third is, I think, which is most important, is that in that particular country, which all are the companies, industries, organizations, right? What are their expectations? I think these three parameters help us to map our own road towards making the changes in terms of, I'm talking about completely the products and services, whosoever is into that particular sector. So when we talk about university and education, I think we are more concerned about in national education policy currently, what is happening. Then when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we are saying that, we need to understand the companies and their expectations through the various platforms like NASSCOM, NASDAQ, or CII, FICCI, or all those chambers right? So these are the research organizations trying to understand what kind of skill sets are required to from the university to industry. So I think when we always talk about campus to corporate, right? So there you will find that we always, this is the never ending talk, right? Or a topic where we always talk about there is a gap between what we produce and what industry expect, and if you look at it last 10 to 15 years, every campus is taking great amount of efforts with help of, because I have worked almost 35 years now in the consultancy industry and education. So I've seen a massive kind of transformation is happening. So real hand holding has started now, so initially it was like everyone was working into silos. How much time you let me know? Huh, Sridevi, please, you can stop me. Yeah. So I think if you look at it, industry is changed, and this so is the case of our universities also. So when we talk about accreditation, when we talk about the placement, when we talk about research, then we also realized it in a big way that yes, we need to handhold with the industry trainers in terms of like how can we have MOUs. We started talking about, if you look at it, the all graded universities or educational institutions, those who got NAC or QS ranking and NIRF or NBA, right? So all of us, we started thinking that how can we give the good content and skills to our student, right? So during this transformation, the whole when we started talking about this, I think that was more into manufacturing and operations. That era was right where we made a huge change after post liberalization. And today, if you look at it, we are talking about industry 4.0, we are talking about industry 5.0, right? And when you start understanding what international the universities are doing and how government is taking efforts to get those campuses in India, I think a huge change is required, and that has required to be done in a very appropriate manner. So how can we really bridge that gap, not only by signing the MOUs, but now the question has come at the ranking level, because all my professors, they will also agree with me that fine, how many research papers are there? How many publications are there? How many patents are there? Right? And then placement is also been expected. So now everyone is running, everyone is mapping their activities towards that. Now the next question, which is very important, that when we talk about research and patents, then how many research papers or the patents are we can say that commercialized, right?
Absolutely.
Look at the changes. And now everyone, now what is happening during this process, it's very interesting. And that now this faculty have realized that we need to have the patents and research. So they are involving students now, right? With the groups, with the teams and all that kind of thing. And now the whole process has gone into a different direction. The reason is industry is changing at its speed, right? So student and academia has to really come together to map those activities. So how can we really do that? So what we have done, I think we are talking about, so one is MOU, and now then we are talking towards going towards FutureSkills, signing, conducting their programs or Adobe, right? So all these kind of efforts are started. And this, I think this is the question, I think, to set the tone. I wanted this because I think when we are talking about steps to take and what is the supply gap, so we always talk about that student should be ready when he enter in a industry. That won't happen. Even people coming from a different background, having experiences, we need to put them on the task. Induction is required for that, right? So maybe
Absolutely, Dr.
all that
Saili.
is required to be done in a proper way, and that is what everyone is trying to do it. I think let me hear and then come back again.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saili. In fact, you highlighted very interesting points, and the point that the research has become a very important element, and in that direction people have started looking at is one very constructive way to bridge the industry academia gap, so to say. So I'll move on to Dr. Akhila. I mean, just wanted to understand, do you feel that there exists a roadblock in terms of bridging this, industry academia gap? If so, what do you think are the key steps which taken, from your side to bridge this demand supply gap that we are speaking about? Maybe briefly. Yes.
Thank you, Shri. As you said, the roadblock has been always there, not only now. It has been always there. Due to digital disruption, the roadblocks are really very, very heavy these days. At a micro level, if I should say, as a professor, it starts with the teaching learning process. Our faculty are teaching the fundamentals, principles, laws, whatever they have read, conceived at the knowledge level. But the skill level expectation of the industry, our professors are not able to match now. So the first point where we have to address as a college is the capacity building of the faculty. How to skill the student, teach the students is different, and skilling is completely different. So these two things has to be addressed by every institutions, the capacity building of the faculty. I agree with the Vice Chancellor, research and other things is required, but the first year and second year students, if we set the tone that this is what the industry expects and this is how the skilling will be done by a college and how they have to do the homework by themselves, then followed by once the teaching learning process is somewhat matching with the industry, then comes the assessment. We cannot go on with define, describe, all these things, what we did long back. Now we have to go like one question. It's more than enough to check the skill of a students. Those days are gone. So our assessment pattern has to match with the industry requirement. Then comes, as usually, the soft skills and other things. Now it's almost, whenever I speak to a HR, they say that they need 50% effective communication. Technology part also we'll be able to manage. As an university or college, our Indian system is not prepared to satisfy the needs of the industry, which is changing every day. Even the industry is suffering because technology is changing. Then how come an university or a college? So we have to be skilled. Professors have to be skilled first, because 8 hours in a day is spent by the students in the classroom. We cannot.
Thank you so.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you so much, Dr. Akhila. I think very quickly, I would just like to now move towards the industry, because we've heard what academia has got to say about this demand supply gap. It's also very important for us to understand what is, the industry talking about. Tracy, I'll just request you to highlight what are the most critical skills that employers are looking out for today. And, how can higher educational institutions that are available in this country can collaborate mutually with industry to bridge that gap a little more effectively? Once you finish, then the same question I'll want Ashok also to respond. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Sridevi, and very good morning, all of you, and thank you for inviting me here. So some of the critical skills that we are looking at as an organization. So basically, we are an automotive organization. We also cater to aerospace and heavy machinery. So if you look at the industry per se, so what was an all-in-all mechanical industry has slowly evolved towards software-defined vehicles. Today, we call a vehicle as SDV or software-defined vehicles. It's no more a mechanical system. So it's a multidisciplinary environment in which a student is going to work, when he or she enters into any organization, as a matter of fact. So today, with the advent of, as Dr. Saili ma'am rightly mentioned, we talk about Industry 4.0, where, due to advent of AI, ML, and process automation, and where we are looking at heavy optimization within the industry itself. So there's a lot of demand for these kind of skills, be it embedded programming skills. We look at students knowing multiple programming languages and also embedded skills, then AutoSAR, cybersecurity, then all the digital technologies that we talk about. So these are some of the critical skills as an organization that we look at. As Dr. Akila ma'am rightly mentioned, that it's impossible for university to cater to all of this with given the duration the professor spends with the students. But then what happens is, what max the university can reach up to is provide solid domain knowledge to the students, which is very, very important. What is saying that there is a gap between industry and academia is a cliche. And I have worked with many of the engineering institutions in India and abroad. I know where the academia has reached now. So it's very cliche to say that there is a gap. If at all there is a gap, it is at the application level. The students are unable to apply the domain knowledge, what they learn in the college, on real-time projects. So this is the gap that we are actually talking about at the application level. So if this can be bridged through project-based learning, or providing a lot of internship opportunities to the students, working very closely with academia, with industries, co-creation of courses, integration of industry projects into the student projects. And one important thing is, I completely agree with Dr. Akila ma'am, that faculty members also need to upskill themselves, because today we are talking about the skill shift that's happening. So the half-life of the skills has reduced to 6 to 8 months now, especially in digital. Even industry is suffering because we also don't get talents who can quickly adapt themselves to the latest technologies. So faculty internships is something which is very, very critical, wherein the faculty member spends, say, about 6 months on sabbatical in an industry, works alongside the industry partner, learns the best practices of the industry, and takes it back to the college, and then percolates that to the students. So with this, what happens? We are upskilling our faculty members as well, and further down, the students will get upskilled themselves. So this is how the synergy can be created between academia and industries, Sridevi.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tracy. There are very important aspects or elements that you have touched out. One being the multidisciplinary environment that we're talking about. And if I connect that dot back to NEP 2020, that's precisely what NEP is saying: provide more of multidisciplinary skill sets to the students. And, we were conducting a lot of hackathons in the recent times. And the reason that we started doing that was a conversation that we were having with the industry, where they said exactly what you said. Domain knowledge is a big problem. Students do not have the domain knowledge, and that's where everything is, falling apart. I think these two are very, very important key takeaways for all of the academic fraternity to focus on these two elements primarily, so that we will move in the right direction. Over to you, Ashok. I think we would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Shri. Thank you, everyone. I think great set of views. But I would like to kind of slightly pivot because been in industry for about 25 years. I've done campus collaboration for about 20 years. And I think great views that came from all panelists so far. I think Dr. Saili talked about context of where the nation is, context of programs. Dr. Akila talked in terms of how campuses need to upskill. And Tracy rightly pointed around, can people get domain skills and everything as software defined everything. If you'd asked me about for the past 10 years, I would have told exactly the same thing. Improve faculty skilling, learn, be a full stack engineer. If you came and asked me last year, I would have told you, please be a full stack engineer. But I would like to shift context here. I think this year and next 5 years, I would call us maybe a decade or half decade of disruption. Google is a $1.4 trillion company. And there are questions on, will Google exist in the realm of ChatGPT? I think that's the situation that the economies are headed towards. So even if we develop phenomenal Python coders out of campuses, no one knows whether they should be coding Python or will ChatGPT or some other tool be coding Python. So I think that's the headwind that entire industry, and it's not industry, it is not academia. I would look at it to say, hey, we as that mankind that creates talent and puts talent to use, are we putting it in the right place? Because that becomes the existential question. And if you go back in time, I think academia had like two large things. I think one was around the research side. So I remember early days of TCS. We used to have one mainframe in Sholinganallur, then others used to be in IITs, and we could do timeshare with some other academia and learn from them. So then over a period of time, it became like, academia moved towards skilling versus core thought leadership and research. So I think if we were to, of course, I think skilling critical, everything is critical. But now is a point in time, I think, is extremely decisive. I think from what Dr. Sahil said, I think beautiful structures being set up in an Indian context. I think when I started, we used to wait for a US company to say what is digital. Then we took 5 years to understand what is digital, and then we had campuses following. Now the Indian economy is so good that we can define what is digital, what is technology. So I think so. If you look at it from an opportune moment, what is traditionally digital is completely disrupted. The ways and means in which Indian economy can leapfrog is prime. So we have the population, we have the skills, we have the scale, and we have capabilities. So I would recommend, or I would think, of course, it's a long, decade-old thinking that we need to go through is maybe while of course we follow the market in terms of skilling, I think there is a huge window of opportunity that's open where we can actually set out saying, hey, what should data privacy be? What should generative AI licensing mean? Where should generative AI be used? How do these things work in different domains? Because we are the consumers of the future, so we should be the creators of the future. I would recommend, or maybe would love to, hear everyone's view and shift conversation towards, how can we grab this disruptive opportunity to, move towards leading versus skilling. So
I sincerely appreciate the way you actually spinned it exactly through the direction that I was coming into. Thank you so much, Ashok, for that. When we say it's important for us to look into this direction, I think we should also look at what Professor Arun has got to say, because he churns out, he is part of the system which churns out nearly about 4 lakh students every year from the university, representing one of the largest technological universities. So what's your take? You've heard, Tracy speak, you've heard Dr. Saili, you've heard Dr. Akila, heard even Dr. Ashok speak on it. What's your take? What do you think we should be doing in this direction?
Well, good morning to all of you. And one thing is, it's always an advantage and a disadvantage to be the last panelist to speak, because advantage is that I can hear everyone speak about their views, and then finally, I can say yes. To almost everyone. They're all very knowledgeable, people who are on the panel today. So I would agree to almost everyone's view. But well, the interesting part which I did a small exercise here at VTU just before I came onto the panel was yesterday I had a discussion with many of the senior academicians here at VTU and posed the same kind of questions. I wanted that to be not just my opinion from VTU, but almost the entire opinion about all the academicians, who are present in our university, so that I can present that to the NASSCOM and Digital Adda. NASSCOM has always, been doing a lot of things with regard to bridging this gap between industry and academia over the last several years, like fostering partnerships, providing the resources necessary, also hosting various events and developing training programs. And also the one important thing that most of the academicians feel at our university is that NASSCOM and organizations like Digital Adda or any other organization, any other corporate should actively take part in giving an advocacy, like, these organizations can advocate for policies that promote collaboration between industry and academia. Right now, it is more of a wishful thinking. that we have that, yes, there has to be an industry academia collaboration, and some of the organizations, some of the academicians, they do it, and some colleges, they don't do it. Whereas there has to be a very strict kind of a policy matter. And if that can be influenced by organizations like NASSCOM and Digital Adda, and bring in that kind of a kind of a policy saying that yes, there has to be this collaboration, and this can include policies that support research and development also. So funding for education, training, and initiatives that promote lifelong learning and skills development. Well, why is that actually very important? If we have a look at that, we have seen that NASSCOM has been doing a lot of commendable job over the last several years, and similarly, Tata Technologies or whatever, they have been into the academia also in quite a lot way. But further, what is it that they can do? That is what really made me think about. We have been talking about all this for several years now. Now, yes, one basic thing that we can think about right now is promoting cross-disciplinary research. NASSCOM can actually promote cross-disciplinary research between industry and academia by facilitating, let's say, collaboration between researchers from different fields. This is what exactly like what NEP 2020 also says. But if there is a push from the industry also, if there is also a push from people like NASSCOM, it gives much more importance to that. So this can actually help in developing innovative solutions to complex challenges, which the society is facing. Like, what are the challenges that, if we look at the challenges being faced by the society, well, we have the climate change, we have the healthcare, we have cybersecurity, we have artificial intelligence, smart cities. These are all some of the challenges that the society is facing, and we need to have solutions. But as university, what we generally feel is research is being done, no doubt, by some of our faculties, but not in a very, very serious manner. No one is actually taking up research work which actually brings about solutions to some of these complex challenges which the society is facing. Maybe some institutions are doing it, I don't say that, but what I want to say very clearly is, the kind of faculty resources that we have in the academia to the kind of research that is being done, I think still there needs to be some more push on that. So one is that. The other is encourage industry-backed curriculum. All these organizations, the corporate, need to actually regularly give that kind of an input to the universities like us. It is, yes, of course, we have our own hurdles, we have our own problems in implementing those inputs from the industry on a regular basis. Maybe not every year. There might be maybe 2 years once, or 1 year once, or whatever. But every year, if we keep receiving these kind of inputs, maybe in due course of time, we might also come out with a policy saying that no, every year we are receiving these inputs. I think we should also try to incorporate those inputs on a regular basis. So industry needs to come out also with those kind of inputs regularly to all the universities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arun. We have three very, very senior academicians on this call. And, because we're talking about more on capacity building of the, faculty, and which is majorly the backbone of the academic segment. I'll move on to Dr. Saili. Help us understand what kind of, because we spoke one element which all of us are agreeing is definitely on the research element of how the faculty should look at it. In a day-to-day operational element, what kind of, skill sets need to be imparted for the faculty? And is there a way, I mean, like, Tracy was saying, if there can be a faculty upskilling coupled with a faculty internship? That was a very interesting point that Tracy highlighted. What is your take on that, ma'am, briefly? Yes, over to you, ma'am.
I think there are two, because for any education institutions and campuses, if you look at it, faculty is the backbone. So, because I always go back to our Gurukul systems where there was no technology, but then still there was so much invention. And at the same time, if you look at it, we also had the good technology which was at par with the world without internet. Okay, so let us understand what was that passion as a teacher which had. And today, if you look at it, you all will agree that all campuses have invested huge amount of money in infrastructure. So one is, of course, resources. So where are we lacking? I think one is the soft part of it, where the passion, ethics, values, commitment to the job. I think these things are very important, which we always talk about Indian values, right? For students and faculty and for the leaders everywhere, not only faculty and student, but even the as an institution at large. And second is now, having said this, okay, this I am not totally disagreeing the fact that faculty development is not required, but I'm saying that we need to focus on two important elements. One is the soft part of it. So creating a mindset in terms of accepting the change which is happening in this country and the education system. So if you look at it today, when we talk about the preparation, right? Dr. Mudhol and will agree with me that we used to go with our own books, notes, notepads, right? And then our own PPTs, printouts, our own notes on that. Today also, when you go to the website and if you want to find out what Einstein has invented, it's a piece of paper, right? But then the kind of effort what has been taken by him were really good. So which was talking about invention, and no one can now, still it is a foundation. So when it comes to today's changes which are happening in terms of technology, we need to train the faculty members, right? And what kind of, it's not only internship, it's one of the area which is very important and has to be linked with their, and I'm sure that National Education Policy and UGC, they will make these changes in their robust or rather than I think age-old assessment patterns which we have, right? So I think we need to change that how quickly faculty is adaptable, flexible, and ready to become the future teacher. We are talking about future skills. It's not only for one only for industry and student, but faculty has to be the middle, what I can say, a change, a catalyst between these two important part of the ecosystem, and of course the partners and customers. So I think when we talk about faculty, so what kind of inputs? So right from I think two areas. One is of course the technical skills which are required, and second is how to invent, right? How to create, how to really create. Someone has said that critical thinking, critical analysis is required, but that has required to be done with the own faculty member. So how to write an algorithm, how to create a assignment, how to assess the assignment. Can we create the assignment for the different sets of the people which are there in the class, right? So I think we have to really work not only for delivering the content of the syllabus or a session plan or a course plan or typically having that pedagogy, but how can we have the test that the student has learned from our classes? So in terms of technology, how can we generate the interest? Today, if you look at it, students are ready to move towards platforms, right? Could be MOOCs, could be Coursera, could be FutureSkills, edX, all everything is available now. So how our faculty can really bring them in class? Because one side, all faculty say that everything cannot be on platform, right? We all, everyone will agree with this. We say that we need student in our class, right? When you go to campus placement head or a director, he says that no, ma'am, they need to train into communication. They need to work on projects, right? They need to understand problem solving. They need to invent. They need to present. So I think when we are talking about this, the same is required with the faculty member. They have to go through that process. You cannot learn it by reading now, right? You need to practice. You need to go on the job training. You need to do the projects in your programs or research and patents, what we are talking about. So faculty development, I think we need to I still remember that I made it compulsory as a performance appraisal that if you don't have
I remember.
the course era certification, I'm not going to give you the this year increment, right? So that was little push to the faculty or PhD. Now we are talking about get the PhD faculty only, even at assistant level, associate, or that norm wise you require it. But then I think we have to really change the mindset of the faculty member that they need to get ready, and we have to create the system. Someone has said very nicely that system assessment of student is not only important, assessment of faculty is also important. Who is going to contribute and how, what are his credentials, right? Is it number of papers only? You will find that in academia we always talk about the PhD person cannot have administration skill. How can it be? So everyone has to have a multitasker. When I'm expecting my student to be multitasking, having the skills in the industry. So I think student, faculty, top management, everyone has to really gear up for all those kind of changes. And for that, very systematic, not only as designed by the academic staff colleges or a typical program, but I think we have to invest huge amount of money in training and development for the faculty members. And if we don't do it, we will not be able to give the justice to the neither to the national education policy, neither to the student, and neither to the industry. So we have to be very particular while selecting the faculty, mapping them, giving them the not only the salary, right? Because today, if you look at, I don't want to go into those details, happening, but I think these are the things which we have to really work on. Can we?
I totally.
Thank you.
Agree that. Thank you so much, Dr. Saili. And, one of the key points that comes out of your conversation is that faculty role has been evolving, and now it has evolved to a place where they're not just teaching, but probably they get into a mentored environment. They are more of mentors or facilitators in the classroom. That's the, different perspective that today the faculty is actually carrying with them. On that note, I would move to Dr. Akhila. I just want to understand, can you give us some of the examples that that has been taken up at your institute in terms of ensuring that the skilling happens to the students, not the teaching and the learning part of it, but the skilling, part of it. Let's keep it brief and hear it from you, Dr. You're on mute, ma'am. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Yeah, skilling, we are taking it in a different track from the first year to final year, along with the curriculum design. A skilling design framework is also there in our institute, so that we are at par with the industry, whatever their requirement. If they ask for a full stack, we have someone. If they ask for a digital marketing, we have some people towards that. AR/VR, some domain skill. So we domain specific, we have certain skills. For that, we do an assessment in the first year, their IQ, EQ, everything we have, and psychometric analysis test in the first year. And year on year, we do that where they move in at their skill level, like NSQF. We have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. The students will be moving ahead. And recently, we have placed in Autodesk for 40 lakhs per annum. This is the first time it's the highest for KPR. But we have understood that if the students are being trained from the first year, their skilling starting from the Python, OOPS concept, then followed by Java, JavaScript, then going into the MongoDB and other things. If all the domain skills, they are really expert, finally comes the part with the project. The project which is uploaded in the GitHub. If they do the projects in AI or simple project in that matter, very simple project in an GitHub makes a great difference for the students. So when they come to the third year, we see that they do some AI or DS related or any IoT project. It can be an embedded design or something related to that. A project is uploaded in the GitHub. Next is their LinkedIn profile. From the first year, their LinkedIn profile, I am very much particular. They build their profile very strongly digitally. So this helps the student to have their own visibility. When the HR comes, they can show the link just like that. So skilling part, both, even though they are a computer science, they are attached with mechanical students, as I said, as a SDV projects. They go for the SAE competition, automotive competition. Like that, skilling can happen everywhere, anywhere. I think you are muted.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akhila. And now I just want to understand from you, Mr. Ashok, what is your expectation from an academia when you go for a hiring or when you look for the domain specific knowledge that really is a big gap that all of us understand about? What is your expectation? How do you think that they should work a little more stronger in that direction?
I think Dr. Akhila actually answered my question extremely well. I think the playbook, I think people having their GitHub profiles is a beautiful first step. And of course, LinkedIn, I think great foundation in terms of someone demonstrating that they're employable. I think it's like a table stakes. If you come in and someone says, "Hey, I have completed a project. This is my profile. I volunteered across X places. I've completed X projects." I think the first tick mark that says, "Hey, should I even consider this person?" Beautiful. I think that adds extremely well. And Dr. Sahil also talked in terms of the faculty also being developed and them doing courses. So I think the combination of both, right? I think one, you absolutely create a project in GitHub. But are you making sure that that is innovative? Is that something that is unique, or someone forked a project in GitHub and created one and created a profile? So I think that's where the gradation, I think the table stake is absolutely that, you need to have Python, you need to have MongoDB, you need to have the data science. You demonstrate a project in GitHub. You demonstrate your LinkedIn profile. As we speak, there are 100 million projects on GitHub today. So which is a huge number. So because I'm from the open source world, and we were surprised because it said there are 30 million developers in the world, but there are actually 100 million GitHub projects. So like what Dr. Akhila is saying, I think everyone is probably gaming the system. Let's say I have 5 GitHub projects, but what is inside the project? We have dedicated AI algorithms. It crawls and says 95% is copy paste, and there is nothing unique. So I think while foundationally the tick marks are there, I think the ability and the opportunity, I think 3 beautiful things came. I think Dr. Akhila talked about the structure, what needs to be demonstrated. Dr. Sahili talked in terms of how the faculty needs to be also ready to guide. I think Dr. Arun talked in terms of projects like climate change and climate tech and others. So if you combine all 3, I think faculty also needs to be experimenting to fail, because faculty, I think somewhere we have thought saying, "Hey, I am the master in Python. Whatever doubt the student should ask, I will clarify." That is an old mindset. Now, I think the faculty should be in a position that says, "I created so many projects in GitHub. How many of those projects in GitHub actually have 1,000 stars, 5,000 stars, 50,000 stars? How many releases they have? How many have been downloaded?" And since I'm passionate on open source, it's a good analogy to look at. I think when Dr. Arun talked about, hey, industry needs to tell us what to do in climate tech. So if you go to GitHub or our platform, OpenWeaver, which is a front end for most of these things, you'll actually find 4,000, 5,000 open source projects from Microsoft, Stanford, and others that talk about how you can use AI in climate tech. So how many of those have our faculty and students taken, and maybe have they customized it to say, "I have created for a bajra crop in India, climate tech that reflects an Indian scenario." That becomes an innovation. So maybe they will succeed, maybe they will fail. But the next step, if we take saying, "Hey, I have taken these technologies, I have applied it to solve a problem. Maybe I've been successful in 1 out of 10 attempts, but I tried to do something. I applied what I learned and I experimented to do something unique. And here is the proof of what I did." I think that is going to become the differentiator, because like I said, there are 100 million GitHub projects. Now, if you truly need to stand out, you need to show saying, how are you unique in that? and have you applied it, and maybe you will fail, that's okay. So I think application, I think, is critical.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashok, for saying that. Unfortunately, Akhila ma'am has to move out. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. We will continue this for another 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on the innovation element, that, or Ashok was actually highlighting, and I'd like to take your thoughts on this, Arun, Professor Arun, on what do you think? I mean, how adaptable are today's faculty to focus towards innovation as an element? Because it's very common, maybe a misnomer, and I would love it to be a misnomer, that generally they prefer to be doing what they've been doing for times. Adaptation towards the change, especially in context of technology today, is coming with a little bit of resistance. I'll not say too much of resistance, but it comes with a little bit of resistance. How do you think the faculty or an academic framework is embracing or moving towards adopting to this change and adapting their work environment towards this?
Well, you nailed it, Sridevi. And there is definitely this resistance from the faculty. There is no doubt about it. We need not mince words in saying that there has been a resistance from the academicians with regard to adopting anything new, because it adds more effort. It adds more of time being spent on their part to adopt to these changes. Yes, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor was saying, Dr. Sahali was saying that yes, the mindset has to be changed. This is ultimately, it boils down to that fact that the mindset of the faculties has to be changed. Well, certain times, in certain cases, mindset can be changed to some extent. But otherwise, I'm always of the opinion, one simple opinion, that, how is it that we make the students to work on the projects? Final year, we tell them it is compulsory for all of you to work on a project. Similarly, why don't we bring about a policy for all the faculties to say that, yes, every semester you need to come out with one patent. You need to publish minimum 3 papers in a Scopus journal. You have to work for every year you have to also work on a project and submit that to the university for its appraisal. We need to come out with a framework like that. Only then it is possible. Or else I think, this laid back attitude will always be there. The resistance to change will always be there.
So the lifelong learning is a funder for everyone to stay, upbeat in this technological world. I don't say that this is in perspective of faculty or a student or an industry, but I think every individual who is breathing and living needs to have this element of a constant learning. I think everybody on this panel would agree with me on that. That takes me to you, Ms. Tracy, in terms of understanding. I mean, you are people who keep a constant vigil on how the technology is changing, how it is impacting everybody's work life, and what kind of demands are coming, what is the supply pool. All these are things that you keep very minutely looking at. What are some data points that would have taken you by surprise in the recent times, especially in context of future of work?
So thanks, Sridevi, for this question. Industry is always churning, as all of us know, right? About 10 years ago, it was different skills which were in demand. Like when I completed my engineering 23 years ago, it was, it was more of Java. Anybody who has done Java was like a king, right? So, but today that's not the case. As Ashok also rightly mentioned, that 10 years ago, things were very different, and now it's very different. The workforce has changed drastically along with the technology changes that have happened over a period of time. Back then, what used to happen, there was more emphasis on physical work or manual work, and the work that involved less cognitive skills were of high demand. But now, if you see, when you compare the supply and demand, the work that involves a lot of mental work, a lot of physical work, or a lot of manual work has reduced drastically. Some of the jobs have been cut down drastically. One is because of the advent of AI and ML and other things. So the recent studies of McKinsey or Gartner, if you see, the STEM related jobs are going to boom to a larger extent, and the work that actually involves physical work has come down to a larger extent. And today it's more of high that are very important. Data interpretation is very, very important, because today data is the backbone, as all of us know, right from the manufacturing industry to design, or any industry, that engineering services industry or any industry. As a matter of fact, data is the backbone, and the student should be in a position to interpret the data. Data monetization is what we call, right? And apart from that, apart from all the hard skills, soft skills play a very, very critical role. Technological skills, although it plays a very significant role, but still organizations like us, like Tara Technologies, we spend at least 3 months, initial 3 months with the freshers, like any other organization. We train them for the first 3 months, but the soft skills and attitude is something what they need to imbibe in themselves while they are studying. So this is something which is really has taken me aback when I read into the data points of how the industry has evolved. Apart from that, actually, when we talk about the post-pandemic era, what we have learned is it's just not the work, it's just not the coding or building hardware or whatever we talk about, is the human touch. That is very, very important. And having this, a high EQ is very important. At the same time, building empathy within the students, among their fellow students, because down the line they go on jobs and they work with larger teams, multidisciplinary teams and multicultural teams. So they should be sensitive to the culture of the other, other. And diversity and inclusion is something what we need to imbibe in them at a very early stage, so that apart from all the technical skills that we are talking about. So these are some of the areas where we actually need to work, when we are grooming our young students. You're on mute, Shreya.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Tracy. In fact, that takes me back to the era when, probably I would have also started my career, and that most of the skills that we expect a student to possess today, especially the professional skills, were the skills I think we all would have garnered over the years of experience that we have been working. And today, the game plan is totally different. On the day one, you're expected to have all those professional skills and be actually a customized, piece for the industry, ready to deploy and, demonstrate what you have learned. On that, actually, I think, as a person who's been representing the academic segment and working very closely with academia for years, my question to both of you, and I'll go to Mr. Ashok first, and then I'll come back to you, Tracy. There are various workforce development programs most of the organizations do conduct and do plan to conduct in times to come. What is one way that we as a collective group, when I say collective group, I'm saying industry, academia, and catalysts like NASSCOM, can play so that these workforce development programs are made more accessible to everyone? And, that actually creates the tech talent pool that, we all can actually build and, tell the world that, look here, this is where your talent pool lies. Ashok, your thoughts.
Absolutely, great question. And we've been a partner with FutureSkills Prime for about a year now, and I've learned a lot. So this whole model, I think two things have worked extremely well in my learning there. I think one is this whole concept of move, because making skilling available, I think, is the first part, which says, is it accessible to everyone? Is it accessible in a device of their choice? Is it accessible based on their time zone? I think we've done a phenomenal job in FutureSkills Prime in terms of making multidisciplinary skilling across soft skills, technology skills available. So I think that is probably a great first step. Second, what I also found extremely useful is the V Labs that we have also been able to co-create with FutureSkills Prime. Because skilling is one. I think people learn the skill, people learn technical skills, people learn soft skills. I think we need a platform for people to experiment, demonstrate, build on top of it, which I think the virtual labs brings in extremely well. So I think if we all as a group from a short-term perspective could do something more and deeper, I think it should be opportunity to create virtual labs for faculty, for students, for industry to collaborate together so that people will try, people will create something new, and in the scale of things, many good things will come. So that would be my thought. Virtual labs, maybe I vote for it.
Absolutely, can't agree more on that. Tracy, what's your take on the workforce development programs and how is it that we can, collaborate more on this kind of elements?
So, see, every organization actually is going through transformation, especially post-pandemic, and the mindset shift has happened in almost all the organizations now. Now the treat workforce is very, very different. Now we have, engagements like counseling and other things also have come into picture, wherein there's a lot of support that's provided to workforce. As far as scaling is concerned, platforms like NASSCOM FutureSkills, I completely agree with Ashok. This actually plays a very significant role in the life of a student or an employee, to a larger extent. And I think this is one of the boons of pandemic, I can say, wherein virtual learning became one of the important factors, and everybody started vouching for digital learning. So the platform that we are talking about, that's the FutureSkills platform. Virtual labs or the sandbox environments that you provide for most of the programming languages actually is going to be a game changer. Different learning paths and getting the experts on call and conducting open house sessions and creating multiple levels of courses, say L0 to L5, where actually they can become ninja in C++, etc. When they become their L5 level of course, etc. All of this is great. Other platforms also are playing a very significant role. What we actually need to look at and together work towards is providing a frictionless learning for every student in this country. When we say frictionless learning, learning has to be made available to everyone, anywhere, on any device. That should be our key motto as an academician or as an industry person. This is something what we need to co-create, co-deliver, and ensure that every student, the learning has to be taken to the learner, because many of them do not have the opportunity of physically attending training programs for whatsoever reasons. So these are the platforms which actually enable, frictionless learning. That is one point. Two, I would like to address Dr. Arun's point, which said industry has to co-create the curriculum and come back every 2 years or so. I firmly believe in this concept, Dr. Arun. Every industry person actually should be associated with academic institutions, become part of their board of studies, spend that time. I personally spend my weekends working with the university, part of their board of studies. I review their syllabus, MTech or BTech, and then that's fraternity. And it's a clarion call for every, industry person to be associated with the academia, so that's giving back to the fraternity and nothing else. And they have to be part of their final project reviews and provide their inputs from the industry point of view. That is one. Become members of PRC committees so that you share your inputs. It work like closed loop feedback system, closed loop control system is what I sincerely feel. And one more point about Dr. Sally ma'am is assessments, which she brought out, and I would like to add one point to it. For this forum, I run a small university, technical university within Tata Technologies. So it is a technical learning and development division, which we call it as Techversity. The kind of assessments that we conduct, maybe it's one of the best practice which I would like to share. We use cloud-based assessment platform, which is a proctored assessment platform, because we conduct all the assessments remotely. So even if the student is away in his native, because we follow hybrid work environment. So we actually proctor the assessment. So assessments are of different categories. It can be MCQs, or it can be programming based, case study based, project based, etc. Depending upon the module we are training them, the assessment also changes. So this is something what the academy also can adapt and ensure we improve the efficiency of our assessments. This is how all of us can actually create a symphony when we are working in a very cohesive environment, as my honest opinion.
Appreciate your thoughts, Tracy. And just to, also let you know, on NASSCOM FutureSkills and also as NASSCOM, we have the same ecosystem of assessments, and the assessments which are conducted by NASSCOM are more skill-oriented and competency-based kind of assessments. I'm sure you would have, come across these assessments. As a last point, I would just like to highlight a few important takeaways from my side, and then I'll request Kamna to conclude the session. Is there are very important elements which came out in our discussion. One is provide an environment for everybody to learn, which is not just the students, but also the faculty, and create more of opportunities for people to go ahead, innovate, research, and contribute back. Go and put it up into platforms like GitHub and demonstrate to the world and tell the world through LinkedIn kind of platforms what you have been learning, how you are progressing. And don't just limit yourself to the technology part of it, but also focus on your soft skills element. And STEM is here to boom, and that's definitely the focus area for us. Co-creation of the content along with the industry, when they get into the university ecosystem, I think that will strengthen up the entire ecosystem, and the workforce development programs will add a lot of flair to it. Value-based, system of education. One thing Dr. Saili was also highlighting is ethics, code of conduct, and these are very important elements, especially when we hear so much around cyber